Amazing transformation. On the eve of my son's wedding, I discovered a shocking family secret. Karen stood in the cramped kitchen of her Maplewood home, heart racing as she rifled through her late mother's jewelry box for the third time that afternoon. The scent of fresh lilies, which she had painstakingly arranged for tomorrow's wedding, hung faintly in the air. This was supposed to be a joyous occasion, a celebration of her son Jake's love, yet an overwhelming sense of dread loomed over her. Just as she moved aside a dusty brooch, her fingers brushed against an old envelope, delicate yet heavy with secrets. With trembling hands, she opened it, the contents revealing a history she never knew, a lineage of artists, creators who had splashed their lives on canvas and stage. Waves of conflicting emotions crashed over her. Could she really be the descendant of such brilliance? And where had that talent gone in her life? For years, Karen had poured every ounce of herself into being a nurse, a single mother navigating the trials of raising Jake after his father had walked out. Each day, she had faced the exhaustion of long shifts, balancing her patient care with dinners and homework. Bitterness flared as she thought of dreams unfulfilled. Those vibrant strokes of creativity fizzled into quiet resignation. The letters whispered promises of greatness that felt distant, as if taunting her. The burden of familial legacy crashed against her reality. How could she chase artistic dreams now, when Jake needed her more than ever? The clock ticked steadily, deepening her unease. Just then, a sudden financial scare made itself known. Her savings, already threadbare, now bore the weight of unexpected wedding expenses, threatening the very details she had worked tirelessly to finalize. Desperation mounted as the vision of Jake's joyous day flickered like a candle in a storm. She clenched her throat, thinking of her estranged father, the man who had left them with scars. Would she really call him? Could she muster enough courage to face the man who had etched abandonment into her life's narrative? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With rising urgency, she made the call. Her heart raced as she dialed, every ring echoed her unresolved anger. When he answered, his voice was strangely distant, unrecognizable. The conversation spiraled, tension intertwining with unspoken apologies. I did what was necessary, he said, but his justification felt hollow. Pain spilled forth like a tide, revealing her mother's dream sacrificed on the altar of family duty. Yet amidst their shouting, Karen felt a flicker of understanding for her mother's passion. Could she breathe life into her own aspirations, even as she was tethered to the struggle of motherhood? With the wedding mere hours away, Karen found herself torn between the colors on a canvas inside her head and the elaborate floral arrangements surrounding her. What would happen if she set aside her role to explore the artist within? She inhaled deeply, bracing for the pull of her hidden self against the demands of her family. As shadows loomed closer, the path forward twisted like a tangled brushstroke. Could she sacrifice her identity once more to fulfill the demands of motherhood, or was it time to seize the brush that fate had given her? The urgency of the moment constricted around her throat, and each choice seemed heavier than the last, leaving her trembling at the edge of uncertainty. Karen stood by the window, feeling the weight of the afternoon sun on her back. The remaining hours before Jake's wedding slipped through her fingers like grains of sand. Distractions beckoned, flowers to arrange, a cake to finalize, but the envelope lay heavily on her mind, its revelation echoing like a thunderclap. These were not just memories but a call to action, a beckoning to explore her own artistic lineage. Was it possible, amidst the noise and chaos of wedding preparations, to breathe life into her own dormant dreams? She paced the small kitchen, letting the turmoil spike through her like electricity. Her work as a nurse had shown her life in stark reality, the beauty and fragility wrapped in compassion and care. But now, the flickering remnants of her forgotten aspirations paraded in her mind, bold and defiant, a hidden talent clamoring for acknowledgement. What if she harnessed her emotional tumult to create? Gripping the counter, she stared at the scattered petals she had arranged for the wedding. Each one told a story, each color spoke of love. For a moment, she envisioned herself amidst the vividness of paint and canvas instead of flowers and table settings. Her fingers itched to transform that vision into reality, but anxiety gripped her. The clock ticked ominously. Jake's day was about celebrating his future, not her indecisions. Then it struck her every great artist had faced a moment where they had to choose between safety and vulnerability, between the certainty of a mundane route and the unpredictable chaos of creativity. For so long, she had enabled her son to chase after his dreams while stifling her own. Could she not instill the same belief in herself? Her heart raced with renewed determination. Thinking of the tight financial pressures coupled with her recent confrontation with her father reminded her that life contained both terrible losses and unexpected gifts. Perhaps this wedding, while encumbered by stress, could serve as a launch pad for her own rebirth. A flicker of rebellion began to pulse within her. What if she approached the wedding not just as a mother but as an artist rediscovering herself through action? She grabbed her sketchbook, the one she had tucked away since her college days, hiding it beneath medical textbooks and deadlines. The pages crinkled as she flipped it open. Memories of vibrant strokes and bold colors danced before her eyes. Each blank page begged to be filled, to be reborn in a swirl of emotion. If she could reclaim her identity even for a moment, the expression might spill forth like a reservoir long dammed up. With renewed resolve and a quiet thrill in her chest, she decided committing to her creativity didn't negate her role as a mother. Instead, it could enrich her. What would it mean for her son to see her pursue a passion, to pursue that lineage of artistry? The strains of wedding preparations drifted through the open window, calling her back to the present. But in that moment, she found clarity. Maybe her path lay not in denying her dreams, but in integrating them into her life. The partially open lid of her sketchbook caught her eye, a whirlpool of ideas blossoming in her mind. Each stroke of her pencil could be a testament to both her lineage and her identity as a mother. But as she gathered her energy and will to dive into this new adventure, she felt a nagging sense of doubt creep in. What if embracing her true self meant pulling away from Jake? Could she risk it? Just then, her phone chimed, breaking her reverie. An unknown number flashed on the screen. She hesitated for a moment, heart racing, instinct screaming for her to ignore, but she felt strangely compelled to answer. Who could it be at this crucial moment? Could the voice on the other end disrupt her newfound realization? As she pressed the green button, her palms grew sweaty. The conversation could chart an unexpected course, one that might explore uncharted territories of both self and family. What awaited her on the other side of the line? Hello? Karen's voice cracked slightly, a mix of trepidation and curiosity threading her tone. Karen? It's me, Max. The voice on the line was familiar yet distant, her estranged brother, reaching out across years of silence. Her pulse quickened. Memories flooded in, vivid and splintered, their childhood laughter together now dulled by years of estrangement and painful choices. What do you want, Max? Her defensive edge sharpened the words. I know this isn't the best time, but I really need to talk to you. It's important, he replied, urgency slicing through the air between them. Important? You fought me tooth and nail for years, and now you want to talk. The heat in her cheeks felt like betrayal, a mix of anger and longing. Here was a ghost from her past summoned back to invoke emotions she had worked hard to suppress. I get it. I messed up. But this is about Mom and our lineage, Karen, he said, his words ricocheting off her defenses, hitting too close to home. You've probably found out something, too. You know we've kept things buried. Buried. Just like her aspirations, remnants of her identity buried under the meticulous layers of motherhood and duty. The sketchbook lay heavy on her table, a symbol of a voice long lost. What do you mean? Just arrive at my place tonight. There's something I need to show you. The thought of facing him and whatever emotions bubbled up was daunting, yet beneath it lay a surge of determination. She realized, perhaps for the first time, that their paths could converge. If her own artistic journey was tied to their family history, perhaps this conversation held secrets that could breathe life into her work. I'll think about it, she replied, vague but holding on to her own uncertainty as armor. Her mind raced, conflicting impulses whirring like clockwork. Should she engage, take this chance to explore her family story further, or focus solely on Jake's impending wedding? Karen, family matters. Please don't let another opportunity slip through your fingers. We might be able to untangle what we've lost together. The plea hung between them, resonating with a depth she somehow hadn't expected. As the call ended, she sat in stunned silence. This was more than a mere invitation, it was an offer to rediscover a root of her own creation, a hidden part of her identity. The clock ticked steadily, reminding her of both the time left before Jake's wedding and the fragments of her life swirling in possibility. The thought of Jake's big day tugged at her. Every moment and detail was manicured to reflect love and union. Yet, her thoughts diverted back to the sketchbook, calling to her with every flicker of color and shadow. Immediate happiness for her son felt rudimentary compared to the life-altering revelations awaiting her, just outside her comfort zone. What if embracing this part of herself didn't mean abandoning the other? Could she integrate the pursuit of her artistic dreams and family complexities without losing the joy of being a mother? As she stood in her kitchen, paralyzed by the weight of these choices, a flicker of an idea sparked. Karen realized it was not merely about the acceptance of her aspirations, but a chance to reclaim her voice, to tell her narrative through both art and revelations. Grappling with the intensity of that decision, questions rolled within her. Was she ready to confront what had been hidden? To face a brother from whom she had separated her heart? And if she took this leap, how would it redefine her relationship with Jake? In that moment of profound uncertainty, the future ahead felt like a canvas waiting for her to apply her brush. As she considered her next steps, another ping from her phone startled her. It was a message from Jake, filled with excitement about the wedding preparations, oblivious to the turmoil swirling inside her. And suddenly, doubt crashed in once more. How could she stand at the precipice of reshaping her identity while also wholeheartedly supporting her son? The answers began to swirl like canvases spinning under a painter's brush, leaving her caught between the instinct to protect and the urge to create. She inhaled deeply, realizing that the time spent in silence was now over, but would she have the courage to embrace this duality, this chance to explore both her artistry and her family ties? As the last vestiges of sunlight dipped behind the horizon, she knew her choices were about to take a decisive turn. The question pressed on her mind: would she return to her brother, ready to confront the family's secrets that lay hidden, or would she prioritize Jake's wedding, an event that demanded her full presence? Each path loomed tall, charged with potential, and yet, fraught with risk. Karen's heart raced as she glanced at the clock, its ticking increasingly loud in the quiet of her kitchen. The notion of heading to Max's place weighed heavily against her, like a stone in her stomach. She had spent years building her life around being a devoted mother, pouring her hopes into Jake's future, only to confront a past she had painstakingly buried. Shuffling through the household chores brought little solace. Each task felt like an attempt to distract herself from the inevitable choice she had to confront. Rolling up a sleeve of her apron, she turned her attention to the sketchbook that had become both an artifact of her lost dreams and her panic, a reminder of the life she had set aside. With a deep breath, she opened its pages. Each stroke of her pencil had been an expression of her yearning, emotions poured into lines and colors. Despite her reluctance to embrace that part of herself, there was an undeniable urge to create. It pulsed within her like a living thing. Why should she not explore what potentially lay at the intersection of her family's past and her present aspirations? The doodles she carved into the pages flickered with promise. What if the stories she unearthed from Max could inspire her work? Each colorful image could symbolize not just her journey, but a narrative of their family complex, intertwined, brimming with secrets and revelations. In that moment, clarity washed over her. It wasn't just about her personal aspirations, it was about the legacy of their family, entwining their past with her future as an artist and a mother. But as the impending wedding loomed, she faced an agonizing personal dilemma. Could she carve out space for herself while also fulfilling her role as a mother? Jake's day was meant to showcase love and unity, and yet, an undercurrent of tension pulled at her heartstrings. Would he understand if she stepped away for the night, or would he feel abandoned, left to navigate a moment that should belong solely to him? An idea began to form, and she imagined a plan that could merge both worlds. Meeting Max could offer her the insights she needed for her art. She envisioned a piece inspired by their lineage, a vivid expression of discovery that could intertwine with the celebration of Jake's marriage. The very act of connecting with her brother might ground her creative process, igniting a flame that had flickered for too long. Yet even as determination sparked, uncertainty loomed. What if Max's revelations unearthed painful truths that could alter the family dynamic she had fought to maintain? How would she reconcile those potential revelations with her son's joy? With her heart made up to go, she texted Jake that she needed a short break from the preparations. Anxiety bubbled beneath her resolve as the evening approached. She dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that made her feel strong and artistic, the kind of woman she aspired to be. A final glance in the mirror revealed a reflection that was familiar yet foreign. It held a woman on the brink of transformation, about to face the complexities of her family, armed with the ink of her past, the colors of her present, and the brush of determination dipped in the ink of hope. Stepping out the door, she took a breath of the crisp evening air, feeling the weight of expectations change on her shoulders. Each step toward Max's house was not only a journey toward confronting family secrets, it was a step toward defining her own narrative. But with that courage came a gnawing question: would she find the answers she sought, or would reaching into that darkness only murky the waters of her identity further? Karen's heart quickened at the thought of potential revelations that awaited her. As she approached Max's street, something within her weighed heavily, a gnawing feeling that tonight may unravel far more than family secrets. It could redefine everything she believed about herself. Was she truly ready for whatever lay ahead? The door to her brother's home loomed ahead, an entrance not just to a conversation, but a threshold to the uncharted territory of vulnerability, creativity, and the truth of who they both were. Could she embrace the unknown without losing grip on the life she had painstakingly built? The answer hovered on the horizon, just out of reach. As Karen approached Max's front door, a swirl of memories danced in her mind, fragments of a childhood intertwined with laughter and betrayal, love and confusion. Her fingers trembled slightly as she raised her hand to knock, the sound reverberating like the final chord of a symphony, echoing her fear and anticipation. Each knock felt like a call to the past, a plea for clarity amid the daunting uncertainty of what awaited her inside. When Max opened the door, his expression was a mixture of surprise and warmth. "Karen. I wasn't expecting you." The familiar comfort in his voice beckoned her forward, but the shadows of their history loomed large. As she stepped over the threshold, the home felt charged with unspoken truths, each room a reminder of shared dreams and diverging paths. "Thanks for having me," she said, the words barely masking the weight of her apprehension. Max gestured for her to sit on the plush sofa, his gaze reflecting curiosity mixed with concern. As they settled into an uneasy silence, Karen struggled to find her footing in a conversation poised on the brink of revelation. "What's been going on?" he finally asked, and his voice was probing yet gentle. Despite the initial ease, Karen felt the walls closing in. The evening spiraled into a dance of small talk, yet beneath the surface, her pulse quickened with anticipation of the pivotal moment. This was the chance to bridge the chasm that separated them, to grasp the threads of their shared heritage, and perhaps unravel the deeper fabric of their family's narrative. "Actually, I came because I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind," Karen began, her voice steady but her heart racing. Whatever unfolded would shape not just her artistic journey but also the familial legacy she had fought to maintain. She took a breath, steadying the resolve blossoming within her. Each exhalation felt like an act of defiance against the doubts that threatened to engulf her. "What is it?" Max asked, leaning in, his interest piqued. The vulnerability in his gaze mimicked her own, the unguarded need to uncover truths long hidden. "I want to understand more about our past, about our family," she continued, the words feeling like heavy stones dropped into an ocean of secrecy. "There are so many gaps I feel compelled to fill, especially as Jake is about to marry." His brow furrowed slightly, and for a moment, the room crackled with tension. "You think revealing old family secrets is what you need right now? With Jake's wedding?" Karen squared her shoulders. She had already grappled with this conflict internally, now it was time to confront it openly. "It's not just for me, Max. It's for him, too. I want to honor our family story, to weave it into the work I'm creating." Max leaned back, a shadow casting over his features. "You might not like what you find. Some things are better left buried." His voice, laced with unease, struck a chord deep within her. She recognized the burden he carried, a caution learned from experience. But Karen's resolve began to crystallize. This wasn't merely about seeking inspiration, it was an act of reclamation, a quest to redefine the narrative they had inherited. Perhaps the truth, however painful, could help me understand not just where we came from, but who we are becoming, she challenged, her voice firmer. Max held her gaze, a mixture of pride and fear flickering in his eyes. Are you sure you're ready for that? The question hung heavily in the air, a diverging path laid out before her. Karen nodded, feeling the unfamiliar flame of courage ignite within. Yes. I have to be. The admission, both liberating and terrifying, ushered in a wave of anticipation and doubt. She didn't know yet how the revelations would alter their fragile connection or the clarity she sought for her art. Would she still be the same mother, the same artist, after she uncovered the key truths? As they began to delve deeper into family stories, the room enveloped them in an atmosphere thick with raw emotion, hinting at the magnitude of what lay ahead. She sensed, more acutely than ever, that the answers could shatter her world or build a new one from its ashes, and just as the first flickers of a story began to unfold, a chilling realization crept over her. Yet another layer of the past threatened to seep into their present, holding implications far beyond her comprehension. What deeper secrets might Max reveal that could irrevocably change everything she had fought to protect? Karen's heart surged, caught between fear and determination, as the probing conversation sat poised on the precipice of discovery, ready to tumble into a void of unexpected truths. Would the answers bring the inspiration she craved, or would they fracture the foundation of the family she had always known? Karen shifted in her seat, the weight of anticipation pressing heavily against her chest. She could feel a shift in the atmosphere around them. It was as though the walls themselves were leaning in, waiting to hear what would unfold. Max's demeanor softened, but tension lingered in the air, charged with the possibility of discomfort. Let us start with Grandma, Karen suggested, testing the waters gently. I know she didn't always have an easy life. What do you remember about her? A distant look entered Max's eyes, and Karen was pacing herself through the careful excavation of their past. She was strong, he said slowly, almost reverently. But it came at a price. She lived with burdens that she never let us see. It was a start. Karen took a deep breath, embracing the collective stories that had slipped through familial cracks over the years. How they had each lost pieces of themselves along the way became apparent to her. As they exchanged memories, she observed Max carefully, wanting to gauge the depth of his involvement and concern. Mom said she always regretted leaving the farm. He paused, his voice heavy with the weight of unspoken guilt. That there were things she felt she should have fought harder for. Fighting for her own narrative was something Karen understood intimately. She had constantly battled the ghostly remnants of expectations packaged as tradition. Her own art had been restrained by the fear of disappointing those who had preceded her. Do you think she was afraid of what she might find if she looked back? Maybe, Max said, his voice a little firmer now. Or scared that others would discover the things that haunted her. Karen felt an electric rush of realization wash over her. The barriers erected by family loyalties had always been perceived as protective walls, yet now they felt like cages. In that moment, leaning into the unspoken truths, she resolved that expanding her understanding of the family narrative was not just an artistic endeavor, but a reclamation of her own power. What if we used this opportunity? She proposed, direct and hopeful. If we sort through these stories, we might actually untangle the threads of hurt and confusion that have held us back. Max's brow furrowed slightly, deliberating over the potential repercussions of such transparency. But what if those threads lead to places we weren't meant to go? His hesitation resonated with her, echoing her own doubts. Would confronting these shadows strengthen their familial foundation or rattle it irrevocably? I need to take that risk, Max. It's time for us to be free from secrets, don't you think? She could see the conflict warring within him, the desire to protect conflicting with a burgeoning need for honesty. The thread of courage she'd felt igniting within her now fueled a deep yearning for growth. All right, he finally said, leaning closer. Let us dig deeper. But remember, some truths might be harder to bear than others. You sound like you know something, Karen challenged gently, her heart racing at the hint of revelation. He hesitated, another flicker of shadow passing over his features. I think there's more to Grandma's story than we've ever uncovered. Things she buried so deep even Dad didn't know. The prospect of deeper, darkened truths sent a shudder through her. What could possibly lie hidden? Was their pursuit of understanding leading them into a morass of unresolved pain? Yet, an invigorating challenge emerged. This thirst for knowledge ignited a fire within her artistic soul, one that yearned not only for clarity but for a narrative that demanded to be told. Then let us unearth it together, she urged, each word steeped in fierce determination. Perhaps this shared vulnerability could alter the trajectory of their family's legacy and intertwine it with her art in ways she had yet to envision. The room was charged with expectation, and as they moved closer to the precipice of revealing hidden secrets, Karen felt a shift in her understanding of herself. This journey was no longer just about familial history, but about unearthing the essence of who she was meant to become. Just as she felt the promise of illumination dawning, Max suddenly froze, his jaw tightening. There's something I've kept to myself for years. I think it's time to bring it to the light. The air grew heavy once more with uncertainty, and Karen's heart stuttered as an unsettling thought gripped her. What could he possibly reveal that would reshape the foundation of everything she had fought to uphold? She felt both exhilarated and terrified, ready to confront whatever lay ahead but acutely aware that the truth, however liberating, could have unfathomable consequences. Karen's mind raced, an internal tempest brewing with anticipation. The prospect of revelation hovered before her like a dark specter, each possibility more daunting than the last. She searched Max's eyes, desperate for affirmation but also terrified of what lay buried in their family's history. Max, she urged softly, whatever it is, we can handle it. I need to know. He swallowed hard, the palpable silence thickening the air between them. You might see things differently after this. It's not just about Grandma. His voice trembled slightly, revealing layers of vulnerability Karen hadn't seen before. What could be so significant that it threatened her carefully constructed view of their family? As apprehension coiled tighter around her chest, she wrestled with conflicting emotions. How much of her own identity was tethered to the narratives she absorbed over the years? Everything I believed, Max continued, his voice barely above a whisper, might unravel if we dive deeper. Are you sure you want to go there? Each word clawed at her resolve, yet she felt the currents pushing her forward. I have to. If there's truth buried beneath these layers, it's time for me to unearth it, no matter the fallout. In that moment of steadfastness, she felt an echo of her grandmother's strength but tempered by awareness. This was more than just the pursuit of art, it was an expedition into her own psyche, a chance to reclaim not only her family's legacy but her own narrative. All right, Max finally said, his resignation mingled with a hint of respect. Let us just do it gently. It's all tied together. He took a deep breath, grounding himself, and began to share what he had held back for so long. Do you remember how we used to play in the attic at Grandma's house? I found something there, something I never showed you. Her heart raced at the idea of secrets hidden in the same sanctuary of childhood memories. What did you find, Max? A box, he replied, his brow furrowing in concentration. It was filled with letters from a man we didn't know. His name was never spoken in our home. The implication twisted her stomach, each possibility more overwhelming. What kind of letters? Love letters, he said reluctantly. Passionate and emotional. They were from someone she adored but never acknowledged in our family. As he unraveled this new thread, Karen's mind spiraled. Was this the key to the haunting burdens they had been discussing? Could this affair, this untold love, be woven into the fabric of Grandma's strength and regrets? What if it changes everything? She said, fear creeping into her voice. We need to know, Max insisted, eyes locked onto hers. If we could understand her choices, maybe we could understand ours too. Maybe we could free ourselves from her ghosts. The concept of their family's legacy shifting under the weight of hidden truths ignited a fierce longing in her. Karen nodded, her determination ignited. We walk this path together, no matter what we find. But as they committed to the search for buried stories, she couldn't shake the feeling that the act of discovery would carve a new terrain within her. Just as she began to feel emboldened, a thought invaded her clarity: what if the truth was darker than they could imagine? The burden of these revelations felt like a double-edged sword, sharpening both their insight and potential pain. We need to be prepared for whatever this means. What if it disrupts everything we know? She posed, her voice resolute yet laced with anxiety. Max nodded, the reality settling heavily among them. What they were about to uncover could shift their family's narrative irreversibly. Suddenly, Karen felt the warmth of her art tugging at her heart. Perhaps this was the crucible that would forge her into the artist she yearned to be, one unafraid of delving into the uncomfortable and the unknown. But could her art encompass her family's shattered illusions, or would it expose her to deeper wounds? "Let us start with those letters," she said, resolve hardening her voice. "I need to see the full story. It's time for the truth to find its place in our lives." Max's face reflected uncertainty, but also a dawning recognition of the importance of their quest. As they prepared to delve into the letters, an unsettling thought took root in Karen's mind: the more they uncovered, the more they risked losing the very essence of who they believed themselves to be. What if confronting these buried truths ended up revealing not just Grandma's past, but a future neither could predict? The air crackled with the energy of impending discovery, and just as they stood on the brink of unveiling this shrouded past, another thought struck her with chilling clarity: what if the person who wrote those letters was still alive? As the morning sun broke through the dusty attic window, Karen felt a crescendo of urgency reverberating within her. Max hovered close, the box of letters resting ominously on the creaking floor between them. Time seemed suspended, pregnant with possibility. Was this the moment when their family's narrative would begin to disintegrate, or, perhaps more terrifyingly, redefine itself? "Are we really ready for this?" she questioned, steadiness laced with doubt. Max, awash in uncertainty, responded with a nod. Each letter was a potential Pandora's box, a fragment of a truth that could unravel decades of carefully woven familial ties. Karen's fingers trembled as they brushed against the aged cardboard. She hesitated, acutely aware of the heavy weight they were about to bear, not just for themselves, but for all the lives connected to Grandma's decisions. Would her act of discovery bring forth familial freedom, or would it expose wounds never meant to be uncovered? Together, she murmured as much to rally herself as to affirm their pact. With that, she lifted the lid, revealing a collection of envelopes yellowed with age. The sight sent a wave of trepidation coursing through her. These letters felt like time capsules, each one possibly bearing the weight of love, longing, and hidden pain. Max leaned closer, the two of them entrenched in a silent understanding. As they began to sift through the letters, Karen's heart raced at every word she deciphered. The eloquence in the writer's voice felt thrilling, yet it also reverberated with a sense of betrayal. Her grandmother had loved deeply, but love hidden away was also love shrouded in shame. What were those feelings worth when they remained unacknowledged within the family? "Look at this," Max pointed to a graceful line, words dripping with affection. Karen's mind raced. How could Grandma possess such vulnerability away from their family? With each revelation, it became more apparent that the woman they idealized was sculpted from struggles that had gone unspoken. "I can't believe this," Karen whispered, shock coursing through her. The notion that the very foundation of her family was built on secrets felt like sand slipping through her fingers. What would happen if they embraced these truths, reshaping their narrative into something honest, something real? "We have to confront this," Max said, the adhesive of their shared anxiety beginning to loosen under the weight of discovery. She nodded, her thoughts swirling around the implications both personal and artistic. She felt the compulsive urge to capture this emotional tumult and pour it into her art. Yet amidst this burgeoning resolve, she wrestled with a foundational question: who would she become once all masks had slipped away? Max carefully pulled another letter from the box, its contents mirroring the tumult of their discussion. "What if we track down the person who wrote these letters?" he suggested, an idea blossoming into possibility. "They could offer insights we never anticipated." The thought sent a jolt through Karen. This was more than just peeling back layers. It was about facing the consequences of their discoveries, stepping into the unknown without a safety net. Was she ready for the emotional upheaval that could follow? The idea of confrontation propelled Karen into a mix of excitement and dread, yet deep down, she recognized a shift within herself. Each new letter held a mirror reflecting not just her grandmother's life but also facets of her own existence, her aspirations, her fears, her own struggles with vulnerability. Let us not just explore her past. We need to dig into our own motivations too, she declared, realizing that this journey was as much about personal growth as it was about unearthing familial legacy. The letters offered pathways into herself she had long since buried under expectations and the need for acceptance. As they continued to read, a sense of urgency began to intertwine with hope. What they uncovered would either shatter their understanding of who they were or illuminate new avenues for growth that had seemed impossible. Just as they prepared to tackle the next letter, a message slipped out, a faint inkling that alluded to a meeting at a quaint cafe a decade ago, a rendezvous that could potentially lead them to the living echoes of their grandmother's past. Karen's pulse quickened at the thought, the air thick with both potential and peril. What if we find that person? Karen's voice trembled, the enormity of the question crackling in the air. Would this fragmented truth be the genesis of a new narrative or merely another burden to bear? In that moment, she felt the weight of her choices manifest both in fear and promising ambition, uncertain if she was prepared to transform again, yet desperate to try. Max's eyes met hers, holding the reflection of shared resolve. We have to try. Whatever comes next, we face it together. As the tension arose from their commitment to discover the living remnants of a love hidden, something deep inside Karen felt ready to confront the unanswered questions that gnawed at her. She urged herself forward, knowing this path might reshape everything she thought she understood about family and herself. What awaited at the cafe, however, was an unforeseen confrontation, one that would test not only their resolve but the very essence of who they believed themselves to be. The sun hung high in the sky as Karen and Max made their way to the cafe, a quaint little place just a few blocks from where she had grown up. Each step felt monumental, as if they were traversing a threshold into a world that threatened to displace everything she thought she knew about her family. The prospect of encountering someone who might shed light on her grandmother's mysterious past ignited a burning curiosity within her, but it was accompanied by the shadows of doubt. What if she doesn't want to talk? Max posed, glancing over at Karen, concern etched across his features. His instincts told him that this meeting would require more than just the simple act of asking questions. Karen met his gaze, a blend of determination and apprehension swirling in her chest. What if she does? She countered, and the hope in her voice echoed louder than her fears. As they neared the cafe, the familiar aromas of freshly brewed coffee and pastries wrapped around them like a warm embrace, providing a momentary solace. The cafe's outdoor seating had recently been added, and they saw lively chatter and laughter floating through the air. For a fleeting moment, Karen wondered if this bright, bustling atmosphere would shatter under the weight of the truths they were about to uncover. Sitting at a small table in the corner was a woman whose presence exuded an air of gentle resilience. Karen felt an electric pull toward her, a connection that transcended ordinary interaction. The woman seemed unaware of the profound impact she had exerted on her family merely by existing. Is that her? Max asked, his voice lowered, as they approached the entrance. Yeah, Karen whispered, her heart racing. This was the moment where she would either find answers or descend further into confusion. She gestured for Max to stay close and stepped into the cafe, feeling a mix of exhilaration and dread. They introduced themselves, and the woman's eyes lit up with recognition, welcomed with the kindness that seemed inherent to their shared heritage. I've been expecting you, she said, bridging the divide of time and secrecy with mere words. As Karen sat down, an uneasy silence fell, the weight of potential truths pressing down on her like a fog. The woman, Margaret, started to recount tales of Karen's grandmother, stories laced with nuances that indicated depth Karen had never perceived before. Each account reflected a side of her grandmother that bordered on otherworldly, a passionate soul who had not just lived but wrestled with the expectations that shaped her identity. With each detail, Karen found herself confronting her own fears of mediocrity and unfulfilled potential. Did she, too, cloak herself with pretenses? Was her reluctance to share her own artistic voice tied to the very struggles their grandmother had faced? Her heart raced as Margaret shared intimate letters that echoed a love story filled with vulnerability, longing to be seen, a stark contrast to the stoic matriarch Karen had known. Your grandmother was a brilliant artist, you know, Margaret remarked, allowing the words to settle between them like seeds waiting to take root. It was a part of her that rarely emerged, and I believe it was because of the fear of backlash from the family. She wanted to protect you all from the pain she endured. But why keep it a secret? This question slipped from Karen's lips with an edge of frustration, as if her grandmother's choices had been a betrayal. Yet beneath the frustration was a flicker of understanding and empathy that began to open her heart. The air thickened with difficult admissions. Your grandmother believed that her struggles could only bring sorrow, replied Margaret, her eyes glinting with an understanding that came from shared experience. That in her mind, a battle raged anew. This idea of projecting perfection to shield the family from disappointment became achingly tangible. But within this erratic emotional chaos, a longing to break free from the confines of fear took root. If her grandmother could love so fiercely while battling constraints, perhaps Karen could explore her own fierce passions, unshackled from the bind of family expectations. I can't let fear dictate my choices any longer, she realized, the bold proclamation soaring within her consciousness. The confrontation with her grandmother's past illuminated the way forward, not just for her family but for herself. Just then, an unexpected twist hit Karen as a figure in the cafe caught her eye. A man briefly smiled in her direction, his expression familiar, yet unsettling. Could he be the one who had been the object of her grandmother's hidden affection? Her pulse quickened, the ramifications of this potential discovery weighing madly on her shoulders. As the conversation continued, a sudden tension filled the air. Could she draw the parallels that might align her own journey with her grandmother's? Would she be prepared to face the complexity of that hidden narrative? As the threads of truth slowly began weaving together, Karen felt herself teetering at the precipice of transformation, a moment that could redefine her existence. Before we dig deeper, who is that man? She asked abruptly, pointing toward the doorway. All eyes turned to follow her gaze, and for the first time, uncertainty clouded Margaret's wise visage. Karen realized that she was on the verge of uncovering not just generational secrets but her own capacity for courage, the very essence of growth she yearned for. Would this revelation catalyze the change she desperately sought, or would it plunge her deeper into a labyrinth of unanticipated choices? Her heart pounded in anticipation as the answer loomed just on the horizon. The cafe's atmosphere shifted palpably as Karen's question hung in the air, charged with unresolved tension. Margaret's expression faltered, the warmth in her eyes now shadowed with concern. That man, she began slowly, her voice trailing off as if caught in a web of nostalgia and regret. The realization of an impending revelation sent a shiver down Karen's spine. Her curiosity mixed with an instinctive need to shield herself from what was to come. She leaned forward, heart pounding as anticipation mingled with an urge to turn back, but she pressed on. Who is he, Margaret? Margaret took a moment to gather her thoughts, her gaze resting on the man who had inadvertently woven himself into the tapestry of their family history. His name was Charles, she finally said, each syllable dripping with historical significance. Your grandmother loved him deeply, but their love was fraught with boundaries dictated by her loyalty to family expectations. The revelation settled over Karen like a thick fog. A hidden love, entwined with creativity and heartache, a legacy buried beneath the weight of familial duty. What this man represented was not just a romance but a testament to the sacrifices women make in the name of tradition. This was the crux of the emotional turmoil Karen had felt her whole life. The haunting question echoed, was it time to choose passion over expectation? She caught a glimpse of the man once more, his silhouette standing out against the cafe window. With determination swelling within her, she turned back to Margaret. Do you know him? Where can we find him? Yes, I do, Margaret replied quietly, her gaze fixated on the memories that swirled around them. He was a painter as well, a soul entwined with hers. Their love story, though never acknowledged in the shadows of family tradition, birthed a powerful creative force, the kind I see in you today. The truth crashed over Karen, flooding her with a sense of urgency and purpose. If her grandmother had battled against the constraints of life to honor her passions, then perhaps this was her invitation to do the same. What if I find him? The thought ignited a fire in her, urging her to retrace the moments lost to silence, moments she wished to reclaim and integrate into her existence. If you find him, Margaret said, her voice gentle yet firm, you may find answers that reshape how you view not only your family but yourself. Just be prepared, not all truths lead to peace. The prospect loomed before Karen. An artistic and personal reckoning awaited her. The tangled threads of family secrets began to untwist, revealing a path that intertwined her creative aspirations and her newfound understanding of legacy. A sense of resolve clutched her heart. Karen was ready to confront whatever awaited her, to unearth the complex patterns of her family narrative and, in the process, rediscover a flicker of her own creative spirit. This journey was more than an exploration of secrets, it was a reclamation of her identity. "Let us go find him," she said, rising from her seat, newfound strength permeating her voice. The time for hesitance had ended. With every step she had taken into this cafe, she had drawn closer to both her roots and her evolution. Max's eyes sparkled with pride as he joined her side, a silent understanding passing between them, a bond strengthened by resilience and exploration. They left the cafe together, the weight of their familial legacy now feeling lighter against the backdrop of possibility. As they stepped back into the sunlight, the world before her teemed with color. Each hue mirrored her burgeoning courage, her decision to push beyond fear, stepping into her truth not only as the mother of Jake but as an artist destined to honor her lineage. With a sense of direction ignited within, she opened herself to the chance at authenticity, both artistically and personally, a vibrant brush poised above a clean canvas, ready to paint her story anew. The road ahead radiated with potential, and she would not shy away from either the joyful or painful colors it held. The freedom to reclaim her narrative, woven with the wisdom of the past and the aspirations of her present, was now hers to grasp, and in the quiet that followed this momentous decision, Karen felt a shift within, one where she finally focused on embracing the fullness of her identity, art and all. She was no longer just a vessel for her son's dreams but a creator of her own. This was her awakening, the transformative journey from the shadows into the light, where the true artistry of life awaited her eager exploration. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support matters. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.